The moment my fingers brushed against that old shoebox hidden deep in the back of my father's closet, time seemed to freeze. I was alone in his small, dimly lit apartment in downtown Chicago. The kind of modest one-bedroom place that felt more like a temporary stop than a home. The air still carried the faint scent of his old flannel shirts and the faint trace of coffee that never quite left the kitchen counters. My father, Michael Harper, had passed away just days earlier, and this task of clearing out his things felt like the final, cruel chore handed to me by my stepmother, Catherine. I pulled the box out slowly, its weight surprising me, heavier than it looked. Sitting cross-legged on the worn carpet, my heart pounded with an inexplicable dread mixed with curiosity. When I lifted the lid, the world as I knew it shattered into pieces I could never put back together the same way. Inside were letters, dozens upon dozens of them, bundled neatly with rubber bands, organized by year. Birthday cards with cheerful designs now faded, Christmas greetings, even postcards from places like Yellowstone, New York City, and the beaches of California, all addressed to me, Olivia Harper, in my father's unmistakable strong, looping handwriting, and every single envelope bore that stark red stamp, returned to sender. My hands trembled as I picked up the top one, marked for my 10th birthday. The card inside was simple yet heartfelt. Happy 10th birthday. My sweet Livy. I think about you every single day and miss your laugh more than anything. Love forever. Dad. But the stamp mocked those words, turning love into rejection. I sat there on the floor, the apartment silent except for the distant hum of city traffic outside, and let the tears come. For 20 years, Catherine had told me my father wanted nothing to do with me. That after divorcing my mother when I was 8, he had chosen his new life with her and erased me completely. I had believed her. Every unanswered call, every missed milestone, I had carried that rejection like a stone in my chest, shaping my entire life around the belief that my own father saw me as a painful reminder of the past he wanted to forget. The story of my childhood replayed in my mind like a slow, painful film. After the divorce, my mother and I stayed in our suburban home outside Chicago while Michael moved on quickly, marrying Catherine within months. She was elegant, polished, the kind of woman who hosted charity galas and spoke in measured, soothing tones that hid steel underneath. Whenever I called the new house, it was always Catherine who answered. Your father is busy building our life together. Olivia dear, she'd say, her voice smooth like polished marble. He's moved on, and it's best if we respect that. I pleaded as a child, my voice small and hopeful. Birthdays came and went with no word. My high school graduation, I scanned the crowd desperately for his tall frame and kind eyes. But he never appeared. College acceptance. My first job. Even my engagement a few years back, nothing. Catherine would occasionally relay messages. He says seeing you brings up too much pain. The kindest thing is to let him be. I accepted it. I built walls around my heart, convinced my existence caused him suffering. My mother tried to comfort me, but she had her own wounds. Life moved forward, but that empty space where a father's love should have been defined me in quiet ways, trust issues in relationships, a constant ache during holidays, the way I overachieved to prove I didn't need him. The funeral had been a surreal blur just days ago. A grand affair at a downtown cathedral filled with Michael's business colleagues and Catherine's social circle. I sat in the back like a stranger, watching Catherine deliver a flawless eulogy about their 20 years of perfect bliss, their travels, their complete family. My name was never mentioned. She approached me afterward with cold efficiency. He kept a small apartment for late work nights. Clear it out by week's end. Pick a memento if you want. But be quick, the estate people come Monday. It wasn't kindness. It was delegation of the last loose end.
Now,
Surrounded by proof of a love I thought never existed, grief hit me like a wave. But it wasn't just sadness. It was a slow-building rage at the deception. These weren't just letters. They were evidence of a systematic erasure. I began reading, starting from the earliest bundles, my fingers tracing the paper as if touching his hand across time. The first letters from when I was 9 or 10 spoke of simple fatherly pride. He described watching my soccer games from afar, cheering silently when I scored. "You have my determination." Livy, one read. I was there in the stands, heart bursting with joy. Even if you didn't see me, I never knew. He had attended my school plays, sitting in the back row, beaming at my performance as the lead in our 4th grade production. As I read deeper into the early years, the tone stayed loving but carried hints of confusion. By the time I was 16, the letters grew pained. I don't understand why my calls go unanswered. Why my cards come back. Did I hurt you so badly with the divorce? I'm sorry, every day. Please. Just one word from you would mean the world. I had to stop. Sobs catching in my throat. Catherine had intercepted everything, letters, calls,
gifts.
She had lied to me about his indifference and lied to him about my rejection. The psychological manipulation spanned 2 decades, leaving both of us grieving a living relationship we thought was dead. The sun began setting, casting long shadows across the modest living room with its faded couch and single-framed photo on the nightstand. Michael and me, age 7, laughing on a tire swing in the backyard of our old house. No pictures of Catherine anywhere. This apartment wasn't a bachelor pad of a man who moved on. It was the lonely refuge of someone trapped. I packed the letters carefully back into the box, but not before selecting a few key ones. My inheritance wasn't money yet, it was truth. And it demanded justice. The week ahead would change everything. But in that moment, the slow burn of realization began its ascent towards something explosive. Continuing from that evening in my father's apartment, I didn't leave. Instead, I stayed there for days, turning his living room into a chronological map of lost time. The letters formed a heartbreaking timeline that forced me to see my life through his eyes, the perspective I had been denied. Early bundles showed unwavering love. He wrote detailed accounts of secretly attending my events, my science fair when in 4th grade, where I placed first with a volcano project, my awkward middle school dance recital. You lit up the stage.
Livy.
I was so proud I could barely breathe, one letter said. He sent gifts for every birthday and holiday, thoughtful ones like art supplies because he remembered my childhood drawings, books on history that matched my interests. All returned unopened. By my teenage years, his confusion turned to desperation. Letters from age 16 pleaded, "I know the divorce was hard, but I hoped we could still share moments. Your silence breaks me. Whatever I did, forgive me." He described calling repeatedly, only to hear Catherine's voice saying I wanted no contact, that I had moved on and found peace without him. The realization built slowly, like pressure mounting in a sealed room. Catherine hadn't just blocked communication, she had fed each of us tailored lies. To me, he hates you. You're a burden. To him, she rejects you. Don't push or you'll cause more pain. It was masterful psychological warfare. Polite on the surface, but devastating underneath. I found letters detailing his health decline. Recent ones, written with shakier handwriting, expressed regret. Catherine insists it's best we stay apart, that you've built a good life and my presence would reopen wounds. But with my heart issues worsening, all I want is to see you one last time. He suspected something but trusted his wife. Rage crystallized into cold purpose. This wasn't random drifting apart. It was deliberate theft of 2 decades. I contacted my father's longtime lawyer, Mr. Ellis, explaining everything. He listened gravely and agreed to review the will early. At his office, I presented select letters. Mr. Ellis's face shifted from professional neutrality to shock, then anger. Your father added a conditional clause months ago, he said quietly. If it can be proven that Catherine interfered in bad faith with communication to you, her inheritance is voided, and everything passes to you. He read the exact wording, a legal trap set by a man who suspected the truth but lacked strength to confront it directly. The clause was ironclad, requiring evidence, which the box provided in abundance. We planned the will reading strategically, let Catherine believe victory was hers, then detonate the proof at the peak of her triumph. Back in the apartment, I continued reading. Letters revealed his loneliness in the marriage, cold dinners, separate lives despite the facade of bliss. His only joy was memories of me, the 8 years he had as my dad. One postcard from a solo trip to the Grand Canyon. Wish you were here to see this beauty with me. My girl. The emotional weight pressed down, but also fueled resolve. Catherine had curated my reality of abandonment, making me question my worth.
Now,
Surrounded by proof, I saw her as the architect of our mutual grief. I chose key evidence, the first returned birthday card, the desperate plea from my 16th year, and the recent health-related letter exposing her lies to him. These would be my weapons. The days leading up felt eternal, yet fleeting. I slept in his bed, wrapped in his scent, dreaming of alternate lives where we reconciled. The slow accumulation of details, his secret attendance at my college graduation, he stood far back, watching proudly. The wedding gift check returned, built an unbreakable case. By the night before the reading, my grief had transformed into focused determination. The explosion was coming, but first came the quiet gathering of strength. The morning of the will reading dawned gray and heavy over Chicago, mirroring the tension coiling in my chest. I arrived at the law firm of Ellis and Associates, not as the broken daughter from the funeral, but as a woman armed with truth. The shoebox rested heavily in my arms, its contents now my shield and sword. Catherine was already seated in the waiting area, the picture of composed widowhood in a tailored black suit, her expression one of polite pity when she saw me. Olivia.
dear.
I'm glad you came. This must be so difficult. Her eyes flicked dismissively to the box. A little keepsake? How touching. She had no idea the box held her undoing. We entered the wood-paneled conference room. Catherine claimed the head of the long table like a queen. I sat opposite, box at my feet. Mr. Ellis began reading the straightforward portions, small bequests to friends, charity donations, then the main clause leaving the bulk, properties, investments, accounts, to his beloved wife Catherine for their shared years. I watched her face closely. A fleeting smirk of triumph crossed her lips, quickly masked by a single performative tear. She believed it was over, that she had secured everything. Mr. Ellis paused. There is one final conditional clause your late husband insisted upon recently. Catherine's impatience showed. Really? Is this necessary? It's all quite clear. He read it aloud. If it is determined that my wife Catherine has deliberately interfered in bad faith with my attempts to communicate with my daughter Olivia, all bequests to her shall be null and void, and the estate shall pass entirely to Olivia. Catherine laughed sharply. Absurd. Sentimental nonsense from a sick man. How could anyone prove such a ridiculous claim? The room fell silent. This was my moment. I lifted the box onto the table with a deliberate thud. This is the proof. Mr. Ellis opened it, revealing the stacks. He picked up envelopes, displaying the return to sender stamps. Catherine's face drained of color as recognition dawned, horror replacing confidence. The letters she thought destroyed were here, damning her. He confirmed the evidence met the clause's criteria. Therefore, Catherine's inheritance is void. The estate passes to Olivia Harper. Her reaction was venomous. You think this box of paper wins? I had 20 years with him, his life, his home. You have nothing but words from a weak man. But her empire crumbled. Legally bound. The transfer began immediately. She stormed out. But the damage was irreversible. In the weeks following the reading, the legal process moved swiftly. Catherine fought briefly, but had no ground. The evidence was overwhelming, the clause airtight. She was left with personal items and mounting legal bills. Forced eventually to sell assets and relocate quietly, her social standing evaporated as whispers of the deception spread. I kept my father's apartment, transforming it into a sanctuary. There, I read every remaining letter slowly, savoring each word. They filled gaps, his pride at my achievements, worry during my illnesses, quiet advice for my future. The last letter, dated days before his death, brought profound peace. If you find these, know I always loved you. You were my greatest joy. Fight for the truth I couldn't. The betrayal's scale haunted me, the stolen years, the mutual pain engineered by one woman's control. Yet in reclaiming his words, I found healing. His love had endured, transcending death. What lingers is the moral weight, how far lies can destroy families, and the quiet power of truth to restore what was lost. Would I have forgiven him without the box? The question remains, echoing in the silence of his now my apartment. Months later, the apartment feels like home. Each letter reread strengthens the bond Catherine tried to sever. His final words remind me, happiness came in those early 8 years with me. Revenge wasn't destruction of Catherine, it was embracing truth, letting his love finally reach me. The story leaves one wondering about the fragile line between protection and manipulation in families, and whether love can truly survive any deception if discovered in time. His plan, though late, gave us both peace beyond the grave.